Welcome back to another episode of After the Bell. I think we're in episode 6. Yeah, so that's cool. So today's really exciting. Actually, this was Dylan's math teacher, Mrs. Amy Walsh, who is awesome. I've worked with her a lot, so it'll be a lot of fun. She's a down-to-earth person who I've loved being around. So I think it'll be cool to see how the episode unfolds. Obviously, we'll be talking about math, which for me is scary, but I'll get over it. So yeah, we hope you enjoy the episode, and here it is. Well, here we are another week. So I got some news before we get started here. We just got accepted to what's called P&C, which is just a fancy acronym. We were actually talking about acronyms before. P&C is the Pennsylvania Educational Technology Expo and Convention. So it's like the state organization.
Horrible title.
It is, yeah. You can see why they went P&C. Yeah. But we had written a proposal for, on our origin story as the Tech Pack, and then like what we did during the middle of the pandemic, and then sort of now. And so now we've been accepted to have us, and then so now we have to figure out are people going to go live? Because I think it would be cool. It's in Hershey. It's not in Pittsburgh.
Are we going to go live?
But I think it would be cool because I know your mom would probably.
Yeah.
Dylan's mom. Bring him.
She always talks about you taking me home after all this.
We could in reality. We could maybe get the school van. I don't know. When you get into that kind of stuff, like with anything, there's always subsection A, paragraph 2 stuff. So if it's like your parent or something like that, then we, I'm sure, or we could do it virtually.
That's
Technology.
Well,
so then that way you wouldn't have to miss school.
I mean, my mom would totally sign the waiver. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, it'd be cool. Yeah. So, but yeah. And anyways, that just hot off the presses today.
Yes.
Got the acceptance because I had written another proposal with a couple other teachers on a different related topic.
Yeah.
But they didn't get accepted. They were all upset because I think that was the only one they did. But now.
We got approved.
I knew. It was and the name of the title was Making Students Our Sous Chefs, which I knew was going to be really cool. You know what I mean? Because then it's empowering students to take ownership and do stuff, which is kind of cool. Which brings us to now. So we're going to let you take the reins today and introduce who we have here.
So here with us today we have Miss Walsh, who is my math teacher. We just want to start off telling us a little bit about your educational background and why you decided to become a teacher in the first place.
Sure. Well, first, congratulations. That's super exciting. So I think I've wanted to be a teacher since I was in elementary school. Start off with, like you were saying, playing school in the basement, of a friend's house, and I just could do that for hours. And then it moved to correcting. I had a neighbor that was a science teacher, and I would go over to her house on the days that she gave tests, and I would wait for those tests, and I'd come home and I'd set them up in my room on my desk, and I would grade all the papers and bring them back to her. And then in high school, when I kind of felt like I still wanted to be a teacher, but I kind of sitting in my math classes. Not that I am a math genius, but I got high school math, and I felt bad for the students that didn't, and I was just like, we could do this with a smile on our face. Let's just help all kids. Not just the ones that enjoy math and love it and want to be challenged, but the ones that are struggling too. And so I went to West Virginia University for my undergrad, and then came back, started teaching. I was at Coatesville High School for 16 years. And then I've been here for the last 5. And then in between then, I got my master's through the University of Scranton. And now
Scranton?
Yeah. Not that it was online. I never actually stepped foot there, but anyway. And
You're better for it.
and now I'm continuing my education more because I'm just not done learning yet.
Okay.
I have to go back to the neighbor scenario here. So now, was this neighbor, he or she was a science teacher?
I think it was I grew up in Phoenixville for a little bit, so
Now, were these actual tests? Was she like, hey, will you do? Yes. Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I was like, I thought she was the best person for letting me do it.
That's amazing.
I know, years later, I was like,
child labor laws have been.
I was about to say,
I did get paid. I got paid in Mentos.
There you go. And Mentos. Oh, that's awesome.
So
Mentos and Diet Coke. Just pop the bottle.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's cool. It was cool hearing you talk about the playing school too, because my daughter, like we were talking earlier, my daughter loves. She's 5, and whenever something comes up, she wants to be the teacher, or she wants to be like gymnastics, and I'm coming to her gymnastics school. She's like, who wants gymnastics class? And I think that's cool. That's I think for a lot of teachers. I always talked about in 6th grade, we had a project where you picked out of a hat and you got a different job in the school, and I got 3rd grade teacher, and I had moved to the school in that because I moved around a lot, and I really liked my 3rd grade teacher. So for me and I really did not like my 6th grade teacher. So it was like this project was something for me that all of a sudden it clicked for me, because I was probably playing cops and robbers when you were playing teacher. So I think that I like hearing those parts, because I think we all at a core have had those moments that.
I feel like most teachers are that way, where they know from a young age. I've never known a teacher that's like, oh yeah, I just stumbled into this.
But I mean, how often do they talk about it? When's the last time you told somebody that you did that?
Well, just because I had to do it recently, but before that, I don't like.
You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes we get far away from that, and we get lost in all of the constraint. We get lost. I'm sorry. So we always run over time, and so we're trying something new. Because Justin would like sort of try to subtly tell us when we're out with time, and now he wrote it, and it like just cracked me up. Circled.
We slowly get better. We started off not knowing, and then we went to like a flashing fog. Now we're writing it down.
Nice.
At one point, he's gonna have like a billboard.
Yeah.
And
I just thought that was so funny. That was like the funniest thing I've seen. All right, so
so how do you think last year changed the way you teach, like personally?
That's cool.
Well, I feel like me personally and my students this year will know.
Yeah.
I feel like so much of the teaching can actually be done outside of the classroom. I don't feel like we're restricted to just learning inside the building in the classroom. I don't feel like your math or any subject has to happen at the designated time that you're given on your schedule. We actually have all this opportunity, and you said the word, I think before, maybe after we started recording, just having ownership. Like, it's your education, you can have ownership over it, and I think that just takes practice because students aren't used to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, it's a great thing, because I think when we talk about like last year and how we teach differently, and I know for me personally too, I was thinking about like how now that I'm back in the classroom this year and I'm not just helping the teachers and students with technology, I've really put an emphasis on personally on myself on utilizing technology to not, for me personally, have to as a teacher do more than my scheduled time, like, which is so hard, because when we as teachers balance our economical checkbook of time in the day, you always hear teachers say, I was grading all weekend, and I'm done. I did that for 16 years and I'm done. So I think what technology helped me do was utilize it to organize myself so that now either the way the kids are turning in, and it could be quizzes where they're getting feedback because I invested the time making that automatic feedback and stuff. And even in Google Classroom at the middle school, I can do some of those other features, and then realizing I don't have to grade everything. That's the other thing. Like, just because I know sometimes I'll see other foreign language teachers say, because I'll use Flipgrid a lot and have them record stuff. And I also like that for math. I've seen some cool ones where in elementary level where the kids had Chromebooks and they were given a math problem at the end of the unit, and they had to talk out. They had to record themselves talking out what they were doing and then show the paper at the end. And I was like, that's such a powerful tool to and then you're inside their head, which the hardest thing is knowing. The hardest thing knowing is if it's a kid's actual work sometimes. And utilizing that technology. But there was a woman that teaches at Central Bucks, I've mentioned before, Holly Woodard.
Oh, yeah.
She's recently doing a convention center. She's doing some kind of session for teachers, because she does a whole thing on how she, as an English teacher, who often say they have a ton. I know Mr. Fox, some of those friends are friends of mine, how much it takes to grade an essay and how many essays they have to give, but how we as teachers can preserve our time, because our family is the most important. That's something I learned over the whole thing, was prioritizing, because I had to prioritize my daughter's learning and my teaching all at the same time. And so I think a lot of that has changed me in trying to be super efficient. And like you said, can we get creative so that they're taking ownership of the learning, and just, so I think that for me, I found myself trying to do a lot less of activities in the book or things that don't really relate to real world application.
Last year I had the students, they had to they could do whatever they wanted to, but it had to be some type of recording,
Yeah.
and they had to work out the problem so I could hear them verbalize. Because a lot of the students last year we didn't even get to see, you know? So it was a way to hear their voices, know what was inside their heads, so that's nice. And then, this year too, I feel like, if I can spend more time walking around the classroom, interacting with the students and asking them questions, and why is that? Why do you think that? Then they really don't have to spend 40 minutes doing the same thing over and over again, because I feel like I know what students know what. So, more in the classroom that the students can spend working together, using each other, where I'm walking around just being more of a facilitator, then, I feel like I know my students so much more than if I were to lecture for 45 minutes and wait for volunteers.
Well, I feel like that's a really powerful tool, because you talk about this all the time, go at your own pace. And when a lot of people have the same question, you put it on the board, you go through it, and you do a lot about with like notes at home. You give the lecture at home, and they can do it at home if they want, but they can also do it in class if they want. And then you let us turn and talk. And I feel like it's a really powerful tool, because I feel like some kids are way more advanced than other kids in the classroom. But if you teach it the exact same way, one kid's gonna fall behind, while one kid's gonna be so far ahead that they're gonna be completely bored the whole time. So I feel like the way you do it, you let the kids who are super advanced, you let them go at their own pace, but you also don't shortchange the kids that need the extra help, because you're there and they can ask questions when we're doing that, and they can ask the questions of kids, which also is another good thing that I like, because it gives a different perspective. Because I feel like the way a teacher explains something and the way a kid explains something, totally different. And as a student, I can take in what the teacher says to me and then push it out as a more student-friendly way. I do that a lot in my classes. And I'm just giving the same information. It's just a loop, but it's a different way of conveying information, which I feel is really powerful, which is a really good tool for both the teacher and the student, because then the teacher doesn't have to do every single thing. Like, she doesn't have to answer every question, because you can turn and talk to the same person. And we're still socially distanced. Our desks are still 3 feet apart. So we're still safe. Good. We're not like clustered together in groups. So I feel it's a really good tool that some teachers, I feel like, overlook now that we have to stay social distance, and
they're like so over. It's like, you're almost like, do I have to change everything this year? Can I hand out tests? Can I hand out papers? So it was a lot to digest too. And I think to your point too, it's sort of like the students, empowering the students. And that's, when we started the Tech Pack, it was like, every teacher's got kids in their class that they probably don't even realize can help with the problem. And I think my initial thought was, wow, there's 1,800 kids and one of me and 120 or 30 faculty. Like, it seemed daunting for me last year to be the only one in that role. So I was like, can I create an army of sorts that, like, all of a sudden now students would rather hear from another student. So we're going to be set up in the cafeterias from now on, starting the second quarter, hoping that it'll entice students to be more proactive about the need for help, because now they don't have to go to their teacher to say, the teacher says, oh, we'll go to Tech Pack, which was a great outlet, because I didn't want a teacher to stop their lesson for 29 kids because one kid was having a problem. If there was a safety valve to say, well, I don't know how to help you. I still want the show to go on for the other 28. Can we have somewhere to funnel you? But to your point, like, now having another student explain how to upload, or think about what we did at the last club meeting. The last club meeting, they presented a problem on the board, and then each group had to go and problem solve, sort of in prep for how we're going to help people in that. And then they had to talk it out and each show how they solved the problem, because there is sometimes more than one way to explain it.
I feel,
And even like, and so we had fun with it, but even still, like, some people, like, he was doing his explanation, I felt like he did a really good job of, like, explaining every screen that was going to pop up in the process, and because sometimes people are really visual.
And a lot of people, like Thomas, would explain it way differently than me. He would probably go way faster. That's where I would feel like your more advanced learners would be. You don't have to show them every single step in making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You can say, get the bread, get the peanut butter, put it on, and then boom. But for some learners, you need to say, grab out the bread, grab 2 slices. You need to get 2 slices on top. Then you need to take your fork. Like, you need to put, like, your.
There's a TED Talk. There's an exercise.
I've seen it.
How to make toast, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this?
So teachers made me do it, and everyone failed.
It's like, so it's a way of showing how hard to work as a team together, because, like, the exercise is, okay, break into groups and write instructions on how to make toast. And so then you get some people that are like, put the bread in the toaster, put butter on it, done. And then some that are like, go to the store, find the aisle that has
Okay,
bread,
yeah.
pick it off of the shelf, which I think tells us a lot about that person's, so like someone who does all of that, and those are like abstracts. So like when you're talking about programming, that's how all of the things that we do, that's how I can go to Siri, where's the nearest CVS that's open near me, and it's sending out what they call API calls, and it's doing all of that behind the scenes work, but because somebody whose brain works like the person who went to the store, they can write all of the programming so that the person who isn't can just say, hey Siri, how do I get there?
That would be me.
And that, you know what I mean?
I'm
And
the
the world,
second
and it's okay. Like I think sometimes we feel like we're in a factory here, and the way that it sounds like you're teaching based on what he's saying is what we need because everybody's in a different spot. So sometimes it seems daunting, like how do we provide that environment? But in reality, it's really easy once you empower students to help you out.
And
And
nice
it's
to be
like,
able to sit
why
with-
do I have to do that?
And it's nice to be able to sit like with a student in class, like and it's not all the time, but yeah, sometimes we do flip the classroom where if it's just information I need to give, like they can watch it at home. They have a few nights to do it, so they can sit outside. They can lay in their bed. I was like, maybe your parents will bring you breakfast in bed if you tell them you're doing your math lesson, on a Saturday morning. But you have that ownership and choice,
Yeah,
maybe
there probably would
7:30
be time in the class that they could get that done.
So 7:30 in the
yeah.
morning might not be like key for them to learn something, but maybe working with their friends might be, and then students are helping each other. And if somebody's really confused, like I can sit down for a few minutes with just one or two students and kind of get that out of the way. So I hope that with more practice on my end and students getting used to it, that there's.
But that's the way the
atmosphere
world
in
is.
the
I mean, you go to
classroom.
a job now, that's how jobs work now. You're
Yeah.
in project management teams, you have your meeting where everybody pitches the idea, knows what they're doing, then you're out and
Yeah.
you have a deadline to come back and some touch base points and some individual, but that's how the world is. So
It's going to be one of the hardest things to change in education, being able to personalize it for each individual student, not getting away from the teaching the 30 kids in the classroom the exact same thing the exact same way.
Yeah.
But it's probably one of the biggest things we need to work on.
yeah,
Because I feel like
but it's not new. Like, and you don't
No.
know this, but like for most teachers, like John Dewey, that's a name if you've been in education, this guy, this bull in like the late 1800s is talking about this style of education that teachers are facilitators and managers. Yet sometimes we get away from that because when we get to like the 1960s and compliance-based education, it was more about toeing the line.
Mhm.
And now now that we're not in that anymore, how do we get back? I mean, heck, we still have a schedule that says we should all be home for the harvest. You know what I mean? Like, so education isn't exactly on the cutting edge of making change, but what we can do individually in our class that makes sense is what starts that process, I think. So it's good to hear that. And I think a lot of people learned, something like that maybe they didn't realize that they were going to now bring back with them to the
Oh
classroom.
yeah, definitely.
Well, we love our ed tech tools. We use tons of them. Kami, Flipgrid, all types of things. So what is your favorite ed tech tool that you use in your classrooms?
So I was thinking about this. Like I don't know if I use like a ton. I love
Well,
my
even just the camera, but
I
you were just
love my
talking about the camera.
document camera. I love
Okay,
my
yeah.
document camera. So it's definitely my document camera, and I do like Canvas a lot as well. I think that's.
Well, I think the document camera is important too because it allows you the freestyle ability to mark things exactly where with your own hand, but at the same time present it to everybody
Yep.
and pivot and improvise because you want that ability to pivot and improvise because sometimes with the tool it takes a lot of front loading and sometimes we want to kind of go off of the room.
And where it came into play, like last year, because we had our cyber students on our roster, and I'm thinking like some students really truly wanted to be a cyber student, and to get the lesson they'd have to sit through like 45 minutes of the teacher like welcoming the class. You go through the warm up, and then you're having some psych. It's just the general class where they really just needed the 25 minutes of content.
Yeah.
So I started making mini lessons or just the content based, and I think they were just so appreciative.
What did you use to make those? Like Screencastify or Loom?
Screenomatic.
Screencast-O-Matic. There you go.
But
There's another one.
but I still like whatever. I still just have the 15-minute thing, so everything had to be within 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Which also helped
Which is
me.
good too.
We have.
At the
I've seen
most.
some of these videos.
Well,
She's
Loom,
seen
that's why
some
like
of
I
them.
use Loom and we had last year we had Screencastify which we had as a district, so that we had like unlimited for some of those. But I think I like that because you really after 15 minutes there,
Yep.
you know, it's almost
At
like
the most too. I mean,
Yeah,
5 minutes,
yeah,
7
5
minutes
minutes would
is
be
ideal.
well, we did a project for guidance where they always, when new students come in, they always got hit with the responsibility of introducing them to the Chromebook and Gmail, and it was overwhelming after all of the scheduling stuff they had to go. So we put together mini videos, and like Justin and Michael and some of it did editing. I don't know if you I know Riley did some of the Gmail, but like we built a little playlist. But the goal was keep these not TikTok level, but like to a level that it was like 60 to 90 seconds of, you know, hey, here's Gmail, here's how to get your inbox set up, and you know, because I think sometimes those little videos can be helpful. And then you put them through YouTube or create like a playlist or put them through Canvas in a module or somewhere. Because really at that point it's about accessibility. How can, you know, what's the best way to get them to the students so that they have access when they need them and they're not making too many clicks to get there.
And then you have the pacing there too. You know, somebody can watch, if it's a 5-7 minute video, they can watch it twice and it's still 10 to 14 minutes, right?
Do you ever pull from like Khan Academy? I know Khan Academy was known for a lot of its math videos. Have you ever pulled from there? Do you like to
A little bit, I do. I think
I always
last
like
year
to-
on our Wednesdays, I sometimes would post things on Wednesdays last year. And I know, and Desmos has some great.
Oh, you're not recreating the wheel.
You use Desmos.
I love the
a lot,
Desmos. I love the
Yeah.
calculator part, you know. But they have some. You'll see throughout the year. They have a really nice one for exponential growth. But and I'll teach you how to make a lot of money off your parents soon. When we get to
I like some of those. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool. I mean, really, it's a matter of like the tool is like it's like when you're planning a trip. Like I'm not gonna pick my car before I know where I'm going because that's like going to the Outer Banks and I'm driving a Prius. That's probably not the best one. If I know I'm going to the Outer Banks, then I should rent a pickup truck or a Jeep. And so I think getting people to think more about why before they figure out what. Because sometimes we're like, oh yeah, I'm going to use Nearpod. When I'm like, well, can we switch that? Can we say, hey, I really want to see if my students are picking up what I'm putting down in real time, so I'm going to use open-ended questions in Nearpod. And so something as small as like tweaking my intention when I'm writing these 2-sentence lesson plans, then like that kind of shifts sometimes, because sometimes we like, you know, with a kid, sometimes teachers get these tech tools and they think that's the end all be all. But we got to start with the pedagogy. We got to start with what we're hoping. And like hearing you talk about using video, like that's more important to say like, oh, hearing kids' voices, hearing them explain their rationale. Like that was why I fought so hard for Screencastify to be a part of it. And this year we actually have Canvas Studio now, which I feel like is so underutilized because we haven't done anything yet. But it's such a powerful tool for the same reason, because now you can roll out your video and interject either little notes to links to other things or questions for them, like an Ed Puzzle style.
Nice, yeah.
And it's all built within, and it doesn't have to be like a point thing. You can just put it up anywhere as like extra practice, or it doesn't have to be like punitive or get it right or get it wrong, but it can be a way for people to get feedback. And I think that using video and hearing kids' voices and having them do that is so powerful. I think like, so whatever platform people are comfortable with is what they should use.
Perfect. So there's a project we can do this year, right? Every kid can pick a little topic in class and create a little video, and we'll have a whole resource.
Cami is cool because like if they had, let's say they did a math problem by hand and then they took a photo of it, they could pop that into Cami, and now students can share the link with other students. And they could be making like little videos where they're explaining why that's wrong or right. They could even be making screencasts within Cami. Cami has tools where you can either show your face, share your screen, and so they would click on that problem to make the note there, and then when somebody comes up, the little video will pop up and say, hey, like, looks really good, except for here, remember when we did these notes? And the screencast is showing where the notes were and what they should be looking at.
Yeah.
Like, such a powerful tool, because now it's all combined in one spot that everybody can go to and everybody has access to. There's just so much that, like, there's so many, it's oversaturated. It's almost overwhelming. So that's why I think most schools need some kind of technology coach or someone to help sort out all of that, because the cognitive load for the teacher to know all the tools, to know what the tools do and which one's the right one, and know your content and interact with the student, it's too much.
It's a lot. It
is.
Could be.
All right, well, you have one more question to end it out for us?
What do you think? Like, what do you hope everyone learned from the past 2 years? We'll go more general. Past 2 years what do you think is like the big takeaway that we probably learned as educators, as students? What do you think we've learned?
So I think the potential's there for us to almost like anything that we think we would like our classrooms to be, I think we can make it that way. When I think back to like, what was it, March 2020, and how quickly we had to adjust, and you're talking about how slowly things change in the education world, like how so much looks like it did like in the 60s, like the classroom looks a lot like it did for me, you know, when I graduated, you know, in 1993. So I'm like, it still looks so much the same, and all of a sudden, within like hours, we were able to create. Like we were like, okay,
here you go.
yeah, but we did it, right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
even coming back a few months later in August, when I think about how quickly we were all able to work together, and we, you know, set up the computers, and we were like doing test lessons with each other from different classrooms. Like, can you see my board? Like, you know, how do I need my camera? And like, we did it all in a matter of days.
Yep.
And then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like if we just have the time or you know, we feel like,
is the mother of all invention.
or even like just like feeling like we have the freedom to do it. Because I think sometimes it's like, oh no, she's showing those videos again, or, you know, oh no, like, you know, like that change can be uncomfortable. And as a teacher, you definitely don't want your students to feel uncomfortable. But I think once you are like, wait a minute, change was good. There was a lot of good that came out of it. So if I just focus on saying, okay, change might be difficult, but the good is out there, the potential's there. I mean, I'm so impressed by what teachers did in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And then how quickly the students like adjusted and just stepped up. So we all worked together. So I don't know. I just think that we just have to kind of whatever we want, the desire we want, just go for it, because there's nothing to be scared of. Like we did the scariest thing ever,
you're right.
and we survived.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. There's no surprises anymore.
No.
Like, and the mental health aspect too. Like I think the other angle of that is like, I'm only going to do stuff that matters now. Like, you know, when I really look at it, everything's different. I see things like, it's almost like I've been living Dorothy pre-going to Oz, where everything was in black and white, but I just didn't realize it was and now that I've seen color, now that I've had all of this perspective, I think just as a person, I'm like, I only want to do things that matter or that are important or that I prioritize. And so whether I bring that in the classroom or whether I value the fact that the time that I have outside the classroom and with family too, I think a lot of people learn that too, which, you know, when you do that, then you want to enjoy what you're doing. So you want to think back to, you know, instead of worried about a test or teaching to a test, you want to think about all the times you used to play school when you were a kid and what was exciting about that and what was exciting about helping people learn with a smile on their face. Or child labor laws in your neighborhood who didn't want to grade our papers. You know, these are all important things. No, but I think that piece too, you know, I think we all can agree on that.
I think students took a lot from this, at least I did, from the past 2 years. Just a new perspective, like you said, about school and how I know that a lot of kids in other countries, they're not allowed to go to school. They can't. Like, they don't have the opportunities. And we have that. A lot of kids, they're like, oh, well, I hate school. I don't want to go here. This is horrible. But you have this great opportunity to learn, to be educated, to just do amazing things in the world. And I feel like a lot of kids, and I'm including myself, took that for granted. And last year, I feel like coming back at the beginning of this year, you really started to realize that, because coming here, you were putting your life at risk, essentially.
Yep.
Coming here and learning. So I feel like a lot of students, teachers, faculty members, they all started to more prioritize the things that matter.
Yeah.
Because now you realize, at least as a student, I realize now that I need to be here. I need to know these things, because if not, I'm not as educated. I can't change the world as much as I feel like as you need the information, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a totally different mindset now that like, I feel like I pay attention more. I'm more perspective of the things I need, and I'm realizing in the real world where I'm going to use these things. Where a lot of kids are like, "Oh, well, I'm never going to need this," but you might need it.
Right.
So
like biology.
I might need it. It's a running joke.
Right. That's a
But
good one.
I feel like it's a whole change in mindset for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's tough. I know I've been talking with my elementary kids. Like, they haven't been in school since they're in 6th grade now. But like, some of them, you can tell by their behavior in class sometimes, they forgot what it's like to be in a room with other people. They're so used to being able to do what they want when they want that they're disrupting the class or they're affecting other people's learning. And so now there's this like process of trying to help kids remember what it's like to be in a room with other people, and you can't just hit mute and you can't just go to the fridge or take a break. So I think there's a little little of that happening, which is an adjustment too. But well, we can't thank you enough for your time and,
No,
and
thanks
hanging
for
out with us.
asking.
So this was cool, yeah. So
It was
we're so
fun.
glad to have you. So yeah, we really appreciate you being a part of it.
Anytime.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks you for watching. I think we had a great discussion today. A lot to learn about today. I feel like we got a good perspective of a different type of teacher because we've done a lot of social studies and now we've done Spanish. Now we're getting a math teacher, which I feel like is a totally different. It's a whole new world.
Well, I like that you talked about using video because I think the power of video, especially last year, not knowing your students as well, that was the only way to kind of get the warm and fuzzies that they were the one learning, and it wasn't, like when you're in elementary school and your parent does your solar system project.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened for me. But so you want to feel like you know what they are. So I like to hear that she was, caught up in really making sure whatever text she was using was leading to them to real world stuff. So
I also hope you guys like getting a little bit more teacher background. I liked her sharing her personal stories.
Dude, that was cool.
I feel like you don't get a lot of that as a student. You get like the basic, like I went here for school. I have this many kids. This is my favorite sports team.
Yeah, but she had her neighbor paying her in Mentos.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good story.
I'm now gonna go find some kids in my neighborhood to grade my Spanish test. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
But thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe.